people who completely restarted their careers after 35, what did you leave behind? What did you become? And was it worth it? I spent years as a probation and parole officer. By 40, I knew I needed a completely different life. So I earned a master's degree and became a kindergarten teacher. People laugh because it sounds like the plot of a movie, but I have loved every second of it. I used to dread going to work. Now, I actually look forward to Monday mornings. The strangest part is that the jobs are not as different as they sound. Both require patience, clear boundaries, and helping people learn how to interact with the world. The difference is that my students are supposed to act like children. At 36, I became a special education teacher after working in counterterrorism. That sentence usually makes people stop and ask me to repeat it. But in both careers, the real work was understanding behavior, staying calm when a situation became complicated, and helping someone prepare for what came next. I did not throw away my previous experience. I carried the useful parts into a room where they could do something gentler. I was a reality television editor until I was 42. I had never used Excel, never written code, and had spent most of my life assuming I was bad at mathematics. But I had reached my earning ceiling. Everyone around me seemed younger, and the future of gig work frightened me. It took 2 years to decide what I wanted. Then I enrolled in an intensive data analytics program. 4 or 5 nights a week, I went to class and studied until 2 or 3 in the morning. I taught myself R, Python, SQL, Power BI, and anything else that might get me through the door. My editing resume did not magically qualify me. What it proved was that I could learn difficult systems, meet deadlines, and perform under pressure. I contacted people directly and asked for short informational interviews. One of those conversations eventually became a job. The switch worked. I am just not sure the same route would be as easy in today's market. At 34, I quit 13 years of management consulting to become a pilot. Now I am a flight instructor, building the hours I need to apply to the airlines. I gave up status, seniority, and a predictable paycheck to become a beginner again. There are days when the numbers look irresponsible. Then I look out of the cockpit and remember that my old job never made me feel this alive. Quitting consulting to fly airplanes full-time? 10 out of 10. I would make the same ridiculous decision again. I left an office job at 36 and became an electrician. The first surprise was how tired my body felt. The second was how satisfying it was to finish a day and point to something real I had repaired or installed. 5 years later, I am much happier. Whenever somebody in a trade tells me they want a desk job, we joke that the grass is always greener. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you just need to admit you have been standing in the wrong field. My career reset started on a forklift. At 34, I was working in a warehouse when I found a free safety certification course. Before I had even finished it, I landed a new job that paid twice as much. I already understood warehouses, licensing, and the dangerous shortcuts people take when they think nobody is watching. That knowledge transferred into safety work better than I expected. Less than 2 years later, I was working in renewable energy, had received 2 raises and a bonus, and was being sent to mines and farms across the country. Starting over did not mean starting from nothing. The valuable part of my old job was just easier to see from somewhere else. In my 30s, I managed a video rental store. When the owner sold it to a chain, I was gone within 6 months. I could have found another rental store, but the whole industry was disappearing in front of us. Pretending otherwise would only delay the problem. At 39, I joined the Postal Service. I stayed, built a stable career, and eventually tripled what I had been earning. The only thing I regret is not leaving the dying industry sooner. I was a paramedic until 34. I worked 24-hour shifts, got shouted at, carried other people's emergencies home with me, and earned about $50,000 a year. Then I retrained as a software engineer. Now I work from home, usually 6 to 8 hours a day, and earn around twice as much. I am still certified as a paramedic and keep up with the required education. That part of my identity did not disappear. It just stopped being the part that exhausted me for a living. At 35, I quit working as a field biologist and went back to school. I earned a master's degree and began a PhD because I wanted to become a research scientist in a different field. I am 41 now, still working on the doctorate, and I honestly cannot tell you whether it was the right decision. The further I went, the more I realized I was not passionate about the research and might not want the scientist's life after all. So I may change careers again. Starting over is not always a clean before and after story. Sometimes the brave decision leads to another difficult question. I left banking for crime scene investigation. I love the work far more than banking, but there was a cost I did not understand until I lived it. Shift work in your late 30s is brutal. Your sleep never quite belongs to you, plans become conditional, and your body keeps a record of every night you asked it to stay awake. I still believe I made the right choice. Loving the work does not make its hardest parts disappear. For 15 years, I built props and sets for movies and commercials. Then strikes shattered the film business where I lived, and the work never fully returned. I became a union stagehand. Technically, it was not a dramatic change. I still build things, solve strange problems, and work behind the scenes. Emotionally, it was enormous. I had always thought of myself as a film technician, and suddenly that identity no longer matched my life. I miss the movies, but now I come home to my children every night. That trade turned out to be worth more than the title I lost. At 37, I left academic publishing and went back to college for a master's degree in mental health. I had spent years feeling like a salesperson whose job was convincing students to buy overpriced books. I was good enough at it to keep going, but miserable enough to know I should not. I have been a therapist for 3 years now. The work is difficult, and I do not come home feeling cheerful every day, but I do come home feeling that the difficult parts mattered. That was the difference I had been looking for. I was 34, sorting pants in a store, convinced I had failed at the adult world. Everyone younger seemed to have degrees, careers, and a plan. Then I applied for a job I was not remotely qualified for. I had no experience, no industry knowledge, and no sensible reason to expect an interview. They liked me anyway. I went from sorting clothes to selling $50,000 kitchens to wealthy homeowners and major construction companies. I finally learned that confidence sometimes arrives after desperation, not before it. You do not always need to feel ready. Sometimes you only need to put your name in the pile. At 54, I reached the top of my company. I was a senior vice president with no more rungs to climb, completely burned out and trapped by a salary that made leaving feel irrational. I left anyway. Now I am starting a company with 2 partners, joining the management of another, and opening a car wash with my wife. There is more uncertainty than I have felt in years. But the strange thing is that I also feel free. My creative side returned. I write more, play guitar again, and spend more time with my teenage daughter. People describe starting over as losing everything you built. For me, it felt more like discovering which parts of my life I had stopped building at all. Every day, we find the questions Reddit can't stop talking about. Have a story like this? Share it below. It might be featured in a future video. See you in the next story.